you have for me as I move into adulthood in order to become a more informed and involved citizen?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here, and I have hope thanks to people like you. How old are you again?
13.
13. Here's a couple things I want to encourage you to do. Learn something new every single day, and focus on what it means to be a good person and a person of strong character. Aristotle said that courage is the ultimate virtue. Without it, there are no other virtues. If people aren't courageous, you don't have honesty, you don't have justice, you don't have beauty, you don't have wonder. And so at age 13, I want you to commit yourself to a life of courage. Courage is doing the right thing when you don't know how it's going to work out. Courage is committing yourself to the correct course of action, regardless of the cost associated to it.
Every human being, I believe, is made in the image of the divine, is sacred, is unique, and if we get away from this principle as we have, we not only have moral degradation, we not only have the collapsing society around us, but it's bad for that being itself. That being itself is unique. That being has rights, and who are we to say, just because we're older, that we get to murder it? Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. Hopefully you're ready for a good Monday. Yeah, rest in peace, Charlie. We love you, man. Today, I just want to point out a couple of good things. Sorry, I don't want to get too sentimental here. We'll have more videos at the end. Today, thanks to Elon Musk, we are seeing an 8% increase in pre-market price for Tesla. Why is this? Because the man bought a shit ton of shares. Let me actually go back over here to the Tesla section. Again, we called this almost perfect timing. Going back to the bottom of 2017. I did sell too early from 2017 to 2019, but outside of that, I have hit the tops and the bottoms pretty much for the last 5 years. And it's because of this guy right here. So Brad Ferguson says Tesla shot up last Friday because of last-minute buying of shares for the upcoming vote. Who was buying? It looks like the renegade, Elon Musk, was buying because according to Grok, Texas law, Elon no longer has to abstain. He can vote his own shares. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. And as far as I know here, I think he bought over 2 million. Let's just look over here. 2.568 million shares for a total of a little less than $1 billion, which is a beautiful thing. And I did have to correct my friend Sawyer Merritt. He said that Tesla was up like 1,600% since 2019. That's not true. It's actually up 3,400% from the bottom of June 2019 to today. So in about 6 years, 3,400%. Not too bad. Not top performing, but it's getting ready to get there. Kind of feel bad for Yasmin and a few other people that just shit on Tesla all the time, but I also kind of don't. I think they're getting what they deserve. You still have 330 Tesla calls, 850Z. Awesome. I hope they're treating you much better than they were a month ago. So I hope they kick ass for you, brother. Also, once you pass the strike price, you don't get as much for the time. So you have to remember. You might want to cash out of those at some point. The upside versus downside risk changes substantially. I will say this, though. I think we're going to continue to go up for a while. TSLL up 80%. Think of rotating into Tesla. You could. We are overextended. We're on the daily. I think we're sitting at a 75, so we're in overbought territory. So I'm not sure how long it'll last. I do think we can continue to go up, though. Tesla is going to be a juggernaut. And when it gets into overbought, I mean, right now, we're only, my target seemed a little crazier down here when I was like, guys, we're breaking out. We're getting ready to go up. We're going to jump 68% in a very short period of time. It doesn't look so crazy anymore as we only have 27% to my target, my short-term target for between now and the end of the year. I do think that this thing can juggernaut, it maybe even test at least 570. Before the year comes to an end. I do think that's very possible. The stock has a lot of tailwinds behind it right now. We'll probably talk about some of those here in a second. Let me see. What do we got? Oh, thank you, Nick. I appreciate the $10 tip. Very kind. With Trump's big, beautiful bill, I might not have to pay taxes on that. which is going to make a lot of YouTubers really happy. It's probably good PR. 8.4% in pre-market now, guys. That's what we're sitting at. Let me jump back over here, though. I think I have a few other talking points I wanted to go over. On top of Elon getting ready to ensure that his votes are a lot more powerful in the future. We are actually at, guys, if we close today, so I posted this earlier today, it's already out of date. If we close where we are today at the end of this month, we'll have the highest monthly close in Tesla's history, which is a beautiful thing. Also, my buddy Gally, again, pointing out how much energy has increased as a part of Tesla's revenue. That's only getting ready to explode higher. I would expect next quarter to probably be the highest ever. And you got Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas. He took a 1,400-mile road trip from New York to Michigan, and he said his car drove 99% of the time. This was on FSD 12 on hardware 3. So it wasn't hardware 4. It wasn't the latest version 13. And he was super impressed and said that Tesla is the future and that people need to start getting in now. We're hiring for a robotaxi engineer to map airports across the entire world. So say goodbye to Uber and Lyft. They're going to go away, guys. These things are going to get fucking crushed in the years ahead. We don't even have the Cybercab out yet. We've got Tesla Giga Berlin raised their Q3, Q4 production plans after very strong sales figures. Head Andre Thierig, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, says positive signals are coming from all markets the factory supplies. That's across Europe. I also want to speak to this real quickly. Excuse me, my buddy Peggy from Canada says 32 reasons why I keep buying more and more Tesla. I won't read all of these, but just think about everything that's in front of us. The Optimus robot, the robotaxi. We don't even have the actual robotaxi, just Model Ys right now. Excuse me, my throat's just horrible today. Full self-driving with the robotaxi, affordable EVs, best-selling vehicle lineup. Tesla semi-truck, again, that's supposed to be ramping up into mass production this year. We got the Roadster energy storage, licensing of FSD to other manufacturers, largest supercharging network, huge positive cash flow generation, worldwide expansion, 6 gigafactories, India expansion, excellent financial health, lackluster competition, Tesla insurance, Tesla Robotruck with FSD driverless deliveries, Tesla service, lithium batteries, solar, the diner, the AI chip, the Robovan. Maybe I am going to read them all. The Model Y L, the cost advantage compensation package, Elon's motivation, much cheaper electricity prices, mega block, mega packs, increasing supercharger revenue, top selling vehicles, Grok AI. It's just crazy, all the stuff that's happening. And again, you have Jensen Huang talking about a multi-trillion-dollar business with Optimus. There's a lot to look forward to with Tesla guys, and I think that's why Elon's conviction is showing just how much he believes in it, and I think that's driving it up even more. Let me pull up chat here and just get it a little bit more readable for me. 80% thinking of rotating into TS. Only thing I don't like, let's see, Alex Garcia. Only thing I don't like, this is going to leave a huge gap below. Not a huge gap. There is a gap. There's definitely a daily gap, but we don't really have a lot in the way of gaps. And it's not a huge gap, but I could see it back testing. So I think selling a little bit of Tesla, if you wanted to do that, you definitely could. I might sell some in a couple of my accounts. I've got one account that's went up a lot. It went up a lot because it had ass and titties in it, and then I sold out of that. And so that account went from being like 60,000, I think, at the beginning of the year to over 200,000. And then Tesla just went up a bunch. So it's probably sitting around, 215 or something right now. So might take a little bit of profit in that one maybe, and look to buy some other things. How long is it safe to stay in TSLL? I don't know, man. I look at it this way. How high have we gotten in a short period of time? Let me just do the math real quick here. So in TSLL, just since September 4th, that was 11 days ago, Tesla's went up 20% 28%. That's a pretty big run for a cap this large. I do think, though, that it's probably pretty safe all the way up to the 460 range. At 460, I think you're probably being greedy. That's a 40% increase in probably what will be a month. I think you're being greedy at that point. So I don't know. I think it would be smart to maybe convert over to just Tesla at that time. Z's Kodak, the kind we like, green. We got fire. Surprised that Tesla opened. Well, you saw why, right? Elon bought 2.5 million shares. That'll do it. Let's real quickly, though. We're going to jump over to U.S. economy, and then we'll go from there. If you guys could all hit the like, it's greatly appreciated. If you could look in the bottom corner, guys, I'll probably see if I can zoom in a little bit. We do have Bitcoin really kind of doing what's expected. It got up here to peak volumes. It's rejecting off of it. It's back testing this previous line of resistance to confirm a breakout before going higher. So I think Bitcoin just looks like it's doing what it's going to do. We have obviously a very interesting week. Let me refresh real quick here for the week for economic data. The big thing is going to be the Fed rate decision, but let's look at what else we have, if anything, for today. We got the New York Empire State Manufacturing Index. That should be interesting. That's really going to be today. And then tomorrow, we got a lot of data. We got retail sales, export and import prices, Red Book, industrial production, capacity utilization, manufacturing production, business inventories, NAHB housing market index. There's a decent amount of data coming tomorrow, so tomorrow should be a fun one. And then let's just take a look here. Then comes Wednesday, building permits, housing permits, all that kind of stuff. And then interest rate projections and the FOMC rate decision. That's the big one at 1 o'clock. And then we'll have Papa Powell talking at 1:30. So Wednesday is really going to be the big day, guys. That's when everything's happening. On top of that, though, we do have other things happening. We have a discussion between China and the United States this week that will probably decide the fate of TikTok and whether or not that exists in the future. We don't really need TikTok in the USA, guys. And Trump has already made it clear that he tried to save it. So he can go down as, somebody who was not against it and who was working to make it better, and make it something where it could sustain as long as they separated China from TikTok. And so he's done his part, I think, to make that happen. If it goes away, it goes away. I mean, I think it's a propaganda tool from the Chinese government. So I don't care if that happens, really. I actually think it probably should. So we'll see what happens with that, but it's a bargaining tool, one that I think China is trying to use against the United States, but it's a weird one because I think it's one that they need more than we do. So we'll see what happens with that. And China just had more horrible economic data. Let me see real quickly if I have some of that. It might have actually shown us the end of last week. So let me do this. I will go to previous week because I do want to show this. Quad witching day on Friday. Yeah, that'll be great. So that'll give us a ton of volatility. So that should be fun. Let me see if I have China economic data. House price index. Let's look over here. So this is China's house price index, still negative. It's been negative since June of 2023. And then again, it was negative over here. It was only briefly positive for May of 2023. It was up 0.1%. So really, they've been seeing declining property prices, guys, since April of 2022. If you can imagine such things, this is 3.5 years almost of things going down. Yeah, Bitfarms broke out. It did really good. I don't know if it's up 20%, but it's up a lot. And I got a friend, Tony, who's loving that right now. He's my Asian brother from another mother, so I'm sure he's happy. But yeah, 3.5 years, guys, of downward price action on their housing market. Can you imagine the pain that has been felt where in a month you've seen this thing go down 5.8% in prices? This is such a huge part of their economy, and they're getting absolutely destroyed from it. Let's look at, I don't know how much I could trust industrial production numbers, but we can look at them. Again, rolling over, not looking strong. And then retail sales. I don't know. There's so much garbage data out of China. It's really hard. Let's see. Fixed asset investment should be a good one. Yes. Okay. So, wow. So, flatlined. Fixed asset investment for China has flatlined. Worst data read since the pandemic. That seems like a pretty big deal. I'm actually going to post that one real quick. You guys are going to stick around with me just for 1 second. That is such a horrible number. That is such a horrible number. Nope, I don't want to do that. Sorry, 1 second here. I'll just skip the lines for now and just post it. Let me see here. 1 second. I just got to adjust something. All right, good afternoon, all. Tesla's free money with just... Yeah, dude, Tesla's doing really good. Asset investment. Read. All right, that's done. Okay, we got that out of the way. Let's go ahead and jump into U.S. economy here real quick. And again, I'll just look at notes. Oops, 60% of my portfolio is Tesla. That sounds like a pretty nice oops. Stony, China's in a pain. Most of my buddies I know are stuck with their investment homes. Oh, I'm sure, dude. Ted PD, Tesla is free money with Jesse. Larendris, good afternoon, all from the UK here. What's up, brother? I saw you guys did a good job representing on the 13th with roughly 1 million people participating and in a relatively peaceful protest. You guys did a great job. Ted PD, what's the quit period regarding Metaplanet guys? Can someone explain to me when will the $1 billion raised be deployed? I think you're talking about the international purchase. I don't know if I have the exact details on that. I do think that the downside pressure, I think in regard to that has already happened. And I just did a post on them earlier. I'll pull it up in a second and talk about what I think's happening next. They did have the highest volume week ever in the history of the company, and that's usually a sign of a reversal. So we'll look at that in a little bit. Seth Golden, Bank of America says September sell-off. If anybody can answer his question in the meantime, please do. While pullbacks during asset bubble builds are normal, so this is Bank of America talking about a September sell-off, we continue to believe we remain far from any true top given still subdued volume with drawdowns during asset bubbles brought at record speed, dip buying seeing its second best year since the great financial crisis, and Powell and Trump likely, and that's good, right? That's actually the opposite. It references great financial crisis, but what it's telling you is dip buying is really strong. It's basically the best it's been since the bottom of the great financial crisis. And Powell and Trump will likely react to any material stress. Autumn sell-off is likely to be a strong BTD opportunity, so buy the dip opportunity. I agree with that. Seth also has all cap tiers are now expected to express year-over-year earnings growth, with large cap earnings expressing the greatest earnings growth. Small cap improvement is notable, but barely growing to date. Now, here's the thing. That is true, but small caps will benefit greatly from interest rates coming down. So once they start to see that, you should see some outperformance in earnings from small caps that start to compete with at least mid here soon. So you're going to start to see some stress relief. I still think large caps are going to be very, very powerful. They've just got economies of scale that dwarf, especially the 7 now that dwarf everything else. And there's a lot of other AI companies that are coming into the mix too and doing really well. Gergervin said, huge week ahead. USA, Canada, UK, Japan, Norway, and others all announce rate decisions this week. And I think all of them are pretty much going lower. I can't see any of these guys going higher. Everyone on that list is going to be going lower. 1 year ago, Tom Lee said over the next 12 months, I think investors should be pretty confident when the Fed has cut rates in a soft landing or no landing. The win ratio for markets are higher 6 months out of 12 months. There's a few guys that push out these stats. I think Tom got those. Let's just listen to it here.
Tom, the small caps that I know you're watching closely
Ross Gerber's long Tesla.
Day. But, I mean, is it September or is it not September, right? We had a rough start, and now some of that's in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, I mean, I think if viewers are sort of confused, I think that's what the next 8 weeks are going to be like into Election Day. I think it's a very challenging period because no one can have conviction until they really know who's in the White House.
So crazy. He looks a little different.
But there are some positive sort of supports coming into play, and next week is the Fed meeting. We know the Fed is going to make some cuts, and with the inflation data being supportive and the labor markets needing some support, I think it's going to give the markets some confidence. So I think we do kind of trade well into that meeting and maybe even the week or two after.
Does the market need...
So this is a year ago when he said this note, guys. So this was a long time ago. But he was talking about how basically lower rates would end up helping the market. Ross Gerber bought 5 shares. Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably actually true. I wanted to point this out. So in Portland, Walmart is leaving. I think this is the kind of stuff that people are fighting to prevent and that we need to do. We need greater security across the United States, especially in liberal cities. If we don't have that, we're going to continue to see stuff like this where there's food deserts and there's nobody left, there's no place left to be able to buy their goods. And this really impacts the poor. So I think what Trump's doing politically is probably a really smart decision. And I think economically it will translate better, too, for the lower end of the economy. So you got to have safety above all else. Vivek says it's happening. Tighten your seatbelts. Trump's going to take the Fed over. Bitcoin and crypto brace for serious price shock. Again, he's essentially going to have control of the Fed. We'll see how it works with Papa Powell, but I think Papa Powell's going to come in line too because he doesn't want to deal with all the stress that Trump can put on him, which is probably a lot. I do want to hear this. So this is I think the more recent version of Tom Lee talking about the Fed rate cut and also talking about Bitcoin and Bitminer.
Or I should say the debate maybe the White House is having over these jobs numbers and what it portends for the economy and therefore what it portends for the Fed.
We can see that Fed fund futures jumped from roughly 2.3 cuts by the end of this year to almost 3. So on the heels of that jobs report, the bond market essentially is saying that the labor market is now deviating further from the Fed's target than inflation and therefore justifying actually one additional cut. So I think that makes sense to me because we know inflation and that August CPI gets reported this week may be elevating, but that the markets are going to begin to view that as transitory, whereas
that's 100% true. And he was also talking last week how the comps were a little bit tougher for CPI. PPI came in nice and low. We love that. CPI pretty much came in line. And again, the comps basically year over year, it was set up for a little bit of failure. So the fact that we came in line was good. And he's right. It is starting to look like, okay, we've got shelter still pulling us down. We've got all these things pulling us down. These major components, and they're going to continue to do that. And if we just refresh over here, 2.12% is what we're looking at right now in regard to the trueflation number. And so I see the CPI getting even better in the future, and I agree with him on that.
The weakness in the labor market, as you know, once it begins to weaken, it's very hard to reverse that momentum. So I think it's important for the Fed to intervene quickly.
And are you of the view 3 times this year, minimum?
Sense. To me, if I look at what the bond market's pricing, which is now essentially 3 cuts and the Fed is talking about 2, the bond market is saying the Fed is behind in terms of how they're perceiving these changing conditions. And so I think on the 17th, when the FOMC makes its rate decision, I think there is a chance the Fed responds to that. And if it does, it's going to be good news because the bond market is going to take comfort from the Fed at recognizing the labor market's weakening.
Hey, Tom, even if the Fed cuts rates, it controls the short end but not the long end. What do you anticipate happens on the longer end, and what do you think happens to the mortgage market, too, as a result?
The long end is something to wonder about because we know globally, the 30-year especially has crept up. And we know that the Fed and other central banks have acknowledged that monetary policy has a lot of influence up until 5-year. The correlation is 90%. But once you get into the 10-year, the bond market is making its own decisions about growth.
And what he's talking about is, so the 10 to 30 years are basically the bond market and the buyers, for the most part, saying whether or not they trust our ability to be able to repay the debt, and whether or not they think that we're going to see strong growth in the future. And so what he's saying is the Fed doesn't theoretically have a lot of control at the longer end of the curve. But again, with supplemental leverage ratio and all these other tools that are in the Treasury, working with the Fed, they can actually do a lot to stimulate lending and make it to where bond rates on the higher end of the curve, I think, are coming down. I think they can force that function. And worst case, as long as we're looking like we're on a fiscally sustainable path and tariffs help with some of that. Great video from Linda Alden over the weekend where she seems to be thinking that America is going to be doing better over the short term because of the tariffs are a much more substantial number than originally thought. She's very pessimistic on what's going to be happening and how long it's going to take for developmental dollars for building in the United States. I actually disagree with that. I think that we're going to probably get like a 50 billion run rate per month between tariffs and development, and I think that number will only start to accelerate. So there's really good stuff, I think, coming in the future that will end up making our bonds look more attractive, much more attractive than other parts of the world.
So that is something kind of troubling. But on the other hand, I think mortgage rates could come down sharply because the spread between the 30-year mortgage and the 10-year is over 300 basis points.
I just want to reiterate that so fucking much. Nobody seems to understand this. He's saying the spread is 300 basis points. It's normally 160. So you could see mortgage rates dropping another 1.5% with very, very little in the way of cuts from the federal government. And that gets us to a much better number. That gets us into the fours, potentially.
The 50-year average is around 160.
Or I'm sorry, fives.
60. So the Fed, if it begins to resume cutting and the bond market views that as essentially an easing trend, the 30-year mortgage could drop 150 basis points if the 10-year doesn't even move. That's a lot of easing for the housing market. That's crazy.
That is a big deal. And I know you're not an economist, but you have to have...
And I'm going to keep arguing this point. I think that will actually help bring down prices even more because, again, housing has been frozen. 85% of sales, roughly 80 to 85% of sales have been frozen for a period of 4 years almost. Since 2021, a little over, just about 4 years. And so that is going to open up in a big way. And I think that's a really big deal. BMNR bought another 83,000 ETH in the past week. Yep, they just keep buying tons and tons of purchases.
Have a view on where you think the economy is headed. If we get these Fed cuts and the economy, doesn't take a steep leg down, despite what we've seen with the jobs market, that's one thing. But if we get these cuts and you're also dealing with a slowing economy, potentially even a recession down the road, I mean, that's a completely different story. You looking at these Fed cuts as for good reasons, because we can do it and get away with it and it's going to improve the economy, or you looking at this and thinking, I worry about what comes on the other side?
I'm going to take the camp that I think that these cuts are actually going to be very constructive for the economy because the 30-year mortgage is strangulating the economy. We know housing has slowed dramatically, but we also know that there's a lot of pent-up demand for housing. So it's a market that does need to be fixed in terms of easing sort of supply-demand conditions. And we also know that ISM, which is a measure of business confidence, has been below 50 for 31 months. It's the longest stretch since the ISM's ever been created. So I think business confidence recovers if the Fed starts to cut.
I agree. If the Fed starts to cut, and with all the developmental dollars, you guys have to remember we're getting 100% depreciation on all physical infrastructure, all software, basically everything that they're pushing these other countries to invest in the United States of America. They're getting to fully depreciate that in the first year, and that is a huge incentive for them to go ahead and make the move and make the jump. And that's where I think Lynn Alden is incorrect. I think she's being too pessimistic. I think we're actually going to get a lot more USA development and production than she understands, because for some reason, Lynn Alden, there's a few people like her, but they just do not ever talk about AI, robotics, autonomy, technology, or all the really positive incentive and pro-growth policies that are being done by Trump. They just don't seem to recognize that, and I don't know why. I'm not sure. All right, we'll probably move on from Tom Lee here. Let me just go back a little bit. I'll go back one. Loan Depot is up 140% in the last 2 weeks. I think there's a lot of people that are getting excited about that. that are getting excited about the real estate sector and looking for it. Any chance of a rate cut larger than 25 bips? I mean, a little bit of a chance, right? I actually think the chance is probably higher than what this is representing. I think it's probably closer to 20%, but it's only showing about 4. But I think what we're likely to see is 25 bips, and then I think we're likely to see maybe something more aggressive after that, or some kind of action from the Treasury to try and help juice the economy while we get rid of Papa Powell and Cook and move on. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. But I think we're getting the 25, and there's a bunch of people that didn't think we were getting that before. So it's a step in the right direction. And then between that 160 bip, or 140 bip drop just to get back to a normal range from the spread that we currently have between mortgage rates and what is happening with the Fed fund rate. I think that again, it's going to get the movement in the right direction and start igniting the market. And when you're going to, I think then you start to see a bunch of houses for sale because, again, people haven't been selling them because they were afraid to move because mortgage interest rates were too high. You're going to slowly start to see that number accelerate, and you'll see more and more and more and more homes being sold. And that's probably an area where companies like Open end up doing really, really well, and maybe some others too in the real estate sector. MTPLF, 20,000 Bitcoin purchased this month, and they have zero debt now. September 17th, they start their 6% preferred. Shares huge, while Japan sits at 1% interest rate. This will be a huge offering. I agree, and that's actually, I think even Lynn Alden might have been talking about this too, but just talking about how you can see how with Japan, people are starting to jump out of bonds and those debt obligations, and they're jumping over into riskier things and into the stock market. I could see a bunch of them taking advantage of Metaplanet and sending it higher. I could definitely see that. Jesse, not sure if you covered Tesla, but can you highlight key resistance and support? Yeah, I did, but I can show it again. We're above the resistance level. There's a gap that's been formed because we launched up so much, so it wouldn't be crazy to see some kind of back test back down here. To the 398 region to close that gap, just to the 400, just as a back test. Doesn't have to happen today, but it wouldn't be crazy for that to happen. It's a pretty normal move, and then we'll continue our way higher towards the 546 range. But I could see that gap filling. I do think that'll happen. I'll probably make a trade. Anyway, we do actually have another little gap right here. I don't know if that one's ever going to fill. I doubt it. I really don't see it, honestly. But this one right up here, just from technicals, I could see that fill and then just go back up. Do you have any KPIs for ETH, Solana, like you have 30 KPI indicators for BTC? No, because you just really follow BTC. BTC is going to be the top indicator. That's the thing that matters. But you could use technicals for the rest. But the real thing, and again, you could use like altcoin pairs and things like that. Total market cap versus Bitcoin. You could use different pairs to see as well. But really, I operate off of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the big bear in the room, and when it goes south, the rest will follow. Seth Golden, yes, I'm trying to be bearish, but I just can't. I know my quant data, and that the breadths and that breadth leads price in 68 years of SPX history, all-time high and active decline. What am I trying to say? Has marked the top in SPX only twice. Advanced decline. Oh my God. So yeah, he's saying we're going higher. I don't think, let me see if there's anything else. And again, semiconductors index, I've already told you, I think that's going higher. All right, let's go over here real quick. We'll go to Bitcoin. Any updated thoughts on CleanSpark? I think miners are doing all right. I mean, CleanSpark's only up 0.1%. It looks like Iron's up 2.68. Bitfarms is up a lot, and a few others are up a lot. Mara's down 0.31% in pre-market. But it looks like it's establishing support. I think it'll double from here. I don't know if it goes much higher than that, but I think you can get into the 20s. I think Mara can get at least like 35, something like that. And they could end up accelerating and going higher too. CleanSpark has the added benefit. It could even get into the 30s. It has that added benefit of them starting to transition into the HPC play. And so if they get any kind of contracts, that's just going to get people excited. And it's tinier in market cap, right? It's only 2.91 billion whereas a company like Iron is already at 9.21. So it's substantially smaller. It's like less than a third of the size of Iron right now. So it could end up doing really well if they started seeing some contracts and as like a catch-up play. BitcoinTreasuries.net just shows another company, Pronetics, adding Bitcoin. So every week we have these companies adding Bitcoin. Let's look over here real quick. Yeah, Bitfarms is doing good, and it helps with my friend Tony, which I like. Again, let me just scroll down. I think it's down here. Yeah. This one doesn't have like it does show them up here. I guess this is as good as it gets. Entities holding Bitcoin in the last 30 days, that's climbed by 25 entities that are now holding Bitcoin that weren't before. And then BTC and Treasuries is up almost 1% in the last 30 days. So again, just consuming more and more all the time. Let's see. Main stage news. Has the murder of Charlie Kirk made you think about faith? Yeah, it has. Hef Williams, hey Jesse, what settings do you use for VRVP? Yeah, let me show you real quick. So VRVP, I do something to refine it. Otherwise, I keep it the way it is. So this is the visible range volume profile. I go to settings and I crank up for inputs. I crank up row size, and sometimes I have to crank it up even more than this. But I do at least 1,000. That way you get more detailed lines and you can see resistance and support with more precision. So that is one thing you can look at. Tesla gap fill. What was the last level I was listening and not watching? Oh, it's you could see maybe Tesla going back to 400 just to try and close the gap fill. I don't know if that happens off some other news. It might never happen. That's the one thing that you got to realize, guys. There's always going to be gap fills. I mean, there's one over here, right? On back in April of 2024, we've got a huge gap fill that we're never going to see in Tesla. And why are we never going to see it? I mean, look over here. Here's a gap fill. Here's a gap fill. Here's a gap fill. Do you guys think we're going to see $40? I don't. So there's just going to be, here's a gap fill. See? So there's going to be a lot of these over time that will never get filled. And so just realize that sometimes it's dangerous to expect that to happen. It won't turn out well for you. Okay? Could you quickly go over your mindset as to how you don't let the account balance fluctuations affect you? I think honestly, just focusing on fundamentals, right? Like if you're focused on the fundamentals of what a company is doing, and you believe long-term you're in good shape and you're not leveraged with and having to worry about like theta decay because you're in a bunch of options, that helps a lot. Again, I've been pulling away from options. I've been pulling away from 2X funds outside of Solana, which you probably should look at. I changed my portfolio a lot. We should probably look at it. But I think when you feel high conviction, I feel so much conviction with Tesla, so much conviction with Bitcoin, and many other things. And so, but those being the two main ones, right? And I think Palantir will do good over the long haul, even though it's stupid expensive right now. And I am starting to buy that one. We'll talk about that in a second too. But I think companies like SoFi is a really innovative tech company, right? For banking, they're kind of amazing. And if you look here, look at their revenue growth, it's just a wall. And lower interest rates end up helping them a lot. So I'm buying SoFi this morning. I'm picking up some of that. I'm picking up maybe a little bit more Palantir. I might pick up some Open. I'm trying to diversify into things. And when you feel, back to your question, sorry, I kind of got into my trading, but if I have really strong conviction and I know I've got a long-term thesis and I know I'm positioned for the long term, like right now I'm not using any 2X funds on Tesla. It's just Tesla. And I've started to remove myself from options. I've got some big treasury companies in there, which again can act as a multiplier, but they keep stacking. So their downside risk becomes the underlying eventually. And they could have risk, but I will be removing that. And worst case, I just end up having to hold it for several more years. And so here's what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Even if it has a down time, 3 years from now, it'll be back up and it'll be really high and it'll be establishing new all-time highs. And if these treasury companies last, they end up doing really well. Am I in DFTV? No, I'm not. All right, let's get back to that. So, but again, if you're in something like Tesla, you could just sit back and coast. If you're in higher risk items, you better have conviction on the timing and the things that you're expecting to happen. I have really strong conviction over Bitcoin and altcoins between end of October and sometime in November of them being higher than they are today. So I don't worry about that. From all my research, from all the history, from rates getting lowered, from everything I know about macroeconomics, from everything I know about our pro-growth policies, from everything I know about how well the rest of the world is faring, I think money printer go burr in a really, really big way. And so I can feel really good, especially about my Bitcoin investments and their ability to be able to weather the storm. I really feel high conviction there. And again, high conviction with Tesla. Let's look, though. I should talk about my portfolio real quick, because I did update it. I'm down a couple 100,000 from where I was the previous one, but the portfolio changed a lot. I did get rid of DFDV, and I got rid of Upexi. I talked about that in my trades last week. I got rid of those and put the money into Solt. I wanted to get a 2x Solana fund because I feel very confident about Solana's breakout and ability to go very, very high. Why do I say that? I've talked about it a number of times, but let's just look at it real quick here, because I do think this is an important thing to cover. I believe my Ethereum treasuries, really the one I'm in, 90+% of my money is Bitminer now. So I sold SBET too. I sold ETH. All those things I got rid of, and I am essentially, actually I probably have a little bit of both, just very small amounts. But yeah, here's where I get excited. So Solana, their market cap, and you know what I'll do? I'll just, it's by size. So you can see how Solana is only 128 billion, whereas ETH is 547, and then Bitcoin is 2.3 trillion. So it's just a way lower number. Oh, we got new data points. Let's pull it up. So it's a much smaller market cap, so it can move a lot more. We'll look at it in a second, but let's get to the New York Empire State data here and just take a look at the graph and see what it looks like. And then we'll also check out Rick Santelli here and see what he has to say about it too. So negative 8.7. We were expecting a 5 and a 10. Let's see how that's affecting things. Let me see here. Pre-market, Tesla's still up 8%. I think this probably increases the chance that the Fed cuts rates by 50 bips by a little bit. And so I think people are getting excited right now. Uncle Jesse, $20 Canadian. We are all Charlie. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Yeah, dude. I think I don't know. Again, I'm not a religious person, but I actually think Christianity is beautiful. If you look at the 10 Commandments, if you look at what it tells you to believe and what the moral code is, I think it's a really good one. Now, you can find things in there about stoning people to death and all kinds of things in older testaments. You can find that stuff, but when you look at Christians today, they're not the ones murdering people across the world. And if anything, they're very open in their beliefs and kind-hearted people. And I think the sense of community is good. And I don't know. I think they're being persecuted a lot actually across the world, especially by Muslims. Yes, God bless America and God bless everyone. Yes, CA. The Machine. Good morning, Jesse. What do you think about holding Hood long term? I think it's probably a really good bet. I think Robinhood is a great company, and I think they're going to do really, really well. But yeah, guys, this New York Empire. Here's the thing. Here's the good thing. Let's just go to like the 3-year on this. Is we still have like a trend of up. After bottoming over here, we have a trend that's still pointing us up, but it's slowing down. Bo, thank you for becoming a member. That means you can talk and chat. But it's slowing down, and it could roll over, and we don't want that to happen. But again, this is something where our buddy Tom Lee was just talking about this. We've had negative reads in manufacturing pretty much going back to 2022, off the bounce of the pandemic era. So... we're doing everything that's required for this number to end up doing good, and I think it'll be revised higher later. So Musk net worth increased $15 billion this morning. Yeah, right. Isn't that off of $1 billion? Yeah, he only actually spent like $740 million to buy his 2.5 million shares, and then his net worth increased by $15 billion doing it. Isn't that funny? Talk about a perpetual money printer. Imagine if Elon Musk bought more shares and had Tesla buy Bitcoin. It'd just be like, blah, blah, blah. Just straight up. It would be nuts. But yeah, so I think this is just going to increase our odds, guys, of getting even more cuts. I think the market seems to be handling this pretty well. And yeah, that was it. That was it so far. Let's get back over here, though. So portfolio, again, so Solana, I believe, it's a 2X fund. And I think it's getting ready to rock. And if I look over here at Solana, here's what we're looking at, guys. We're looking at a cup and handle. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think this is going to happen. If it did, it would just be fucking retarded. But we're looking at a cup and handle that's insane. It doesn't even make sense. So, like, there's no way we make this measured move. It just doesn't happen. Economies of scale kick in and override it. But I do think there's something to be said about this thing breaking out of a trend that goes back to November of 2021 when the Fed started raising rates at the most aggressive rate in history. Solana has not really even seen the run that we would expect this cycle. Even though it did well because it got so beat up last cycle. This thing was sitting at $8. So yes, it did have a really good run to 300, but we're getting ready to break out of a trading zone that can send us a lot higher. So I'm loving my Solana 2X fund. It has actually grown its way into the number one position. And right now, I think it's still there. And I think it'll probably be there for a while just because it can go up so quickly. But if you just look here, guys, I think these are reasonable targets. So here's what I want to talk to. I think with Solana, we at least get to the 650 range, which is 200+%, or let me say this, 170% roughly higher than where we are right now. And I think it's going to land somewhere between that and 1,000. And 1,000 gets us closer to 385%. I tell you this, man, if Solana runs 300%, sold, the 2X fund is probably doing 800%, 900%. So I'm really liking that fund. I think it's very possible that we get to at least 600 and something. And again, I could end up getting 300% returns just off of that move alone. And it's such a small cap. I think it's just kind of a no-brainer in my opinion, and that's what I'm excited about. Open, I'm slowly buying Open because I think they could grow a lot. We could probably look at some of the financials later. I've got like a couple thousand in them, probably some more at the bell, small amount more. I'm also slowly buying SoFi because I think SoFi is really cheap, and I'll probably slowly buy Hood, and I'm slowly buying Palantir. That will be the goal as I start to actually, get some good hits. Solana timeframe, it's by November. It's by November, right? Like sometime in November, based upon previous cycles for the altcoin space and also what we see from Bitcoin normally. October and November are the best months. So if we see a blow off top, it's probably in November. But as I make a bunch of money off Solana and Ethereum treasuries and Bitcoin and the crypto segment of things, which I think are finally going to get really their big upthrust as rates are lowered, I'm going to slowly start to transition into other things. Tesla, like I've said a million times, will be a big one. ARGT, the Argentinian fund, will probably be one. I'll probably pick up a little bit of TLT, might even get some this morning. That's the 20-year bond because it's already washed out and it's set for a breakout. And I think the U.S. economy is going to do a lot better than the world seems to understand. And so I think it'll be a flight to safety for some of the bond funds that you just won't see in MicroStrategy, not this cycle. Not until we see some kind of washout that tests MicroStrategy again with their new product offerings. Again, STRC, STRD, all these Strife, all these other things have not been tried and true tested in a bear market. And so I think mainstream will not be interested in any kind of bond-related activity for some of these other vehicles until they've seen it wash out and they see that they've got staying power. What do you think about Ethereum treasuries? I love BMNR the most. SBEC, could it have a catch-up play? I say that all the time. EC could do even better because, again, it's smaller. But I'm trying different strategies. So I've had a major washout in Bitcoin treasuries. I think they've seen the bottom, and I think we're good. I'm not worried about them seeing a lot lower price action, and I'm still keeping some of the smaller ones. But then with Ethereum, I'm just staying in BMNR for the most part. Just trying that for that Ethereum treasury. And then with Solana, I'm trying something completely different. No Solana treasury at all, just a 2X fund in case the 2X fund ends up outperforming. So it's kind of diversifying my risk across the three, I think, and reducing my downside risk. You sold the rest of DFDV and bought more sold. Yeah. I think that's going to work out all right. But again, they could do really well too. And then maybe I miss out on some of that. But that's why I have the smaller Bitcoin treasury so that I don't have to worry about that. And I can test that. And then the 2X fund with Solana is just going to be a ripper. So I'm not worried about it. But I do, if you look back at it, guys, this last year, the big thing was getting into MicroStrategy and understanding that trade early, and then Metaplanet and understanding that trade early, and BMNR and everything that Tom Lee touches. But outside of that, the real money was made not in Bitcoin miners. They were fucking trash. Shorting them was the play. But it was made, and then again, the treasuries now, definitely not over the last month, have they been the right decision in any way for almost 2 months, honestly, some of them. So they haven't treated you very well outside of a couple of pops, but it was really taking like IBIT and like the Bitcoin fund and maybe applying leverage to it, or getting a 2X fund for Bitcoin. Or again, Solt was a great 2X play, or some Ethereum 2X play. Those were the winners. It wasn't this other stuff. That was the winning solution. So you just have to you always have to reevaluate and look at like, where have we come? What did I get wrong? What did I get right? Why was it that play? What have I learned from this? I think if you're not doing that and growing in the space of investing, then you're missing out. And so again, I'm always going to be thinking about what I didn't do right each cycle, because there will be cycles. There are always cycles. They might just be shallower. And maybe they rotate quicker or slower. Probably slower would be my guess. But there will always be cycles, and I'll always want to understand, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? I think you have to be that way. So we always need to evaluate that stuff. Bitfarms is running hard. I don't even know if there's any new news on Bitfarms at all. But again, I think Bitfarms is like an HPC type, right? And then there's energy plays. I think some of these are just finally getting their day. And again, I think miners are going to end up doing better soon, especially if you're leaning into the HPC play. We'll see if CleanSpark can come up with some kind of a news announcement that helps them. But yeah, I'll be buying SoFi. I'll be buying a bunch of stuff in the future. We're 10 months behind the anticipated transition from BTC proxies into Tesla. 10 months behind the anticipated transition. I don't know what you mean by 10 months. I don't agree with that timeline. I do think that I was hoping for myself to be transitioning probably like in July, June, from more of the Bitcoin related stuff and alt related stuff into Tesla. And I'm kind of doing that, right? Like it's turned out really good lately here. Tesla's doing way better. And I've started that transition. And if we look at my portfolio, we can see it, because it's currently my third listing, and it's probably honestly getting real close to BMNR and sold right now with this jump today, as some of the treasuries and some of the riskier items start to go away. This is growing in scale, and there's other stuff that you just don't see on here too. But again, they'll start to grow in scale a lot over the course of the next couple of months. Bitfarms pivoting into HPC, deeply undervalued. Yeah, so again, that's just like the play. I think that's the play. MB said, Jesse, you said in the past that options are better than 2X funds. Why sold? It depends on what you're doing. They're kind of the same. Options are more strategic because you get to choose your exact strike price and timing. I don't want to do that with Solt, and I don't even necessarily have a good high volume vehicle to do that has a lot of volume. It's kind of redundant. I said it twice, but Solt, it has a ton of volume. So that's why Solt. Is it a good idea to get out of Bitfarms and move to Solt? I don't know if it's a good idea to do it really quickly, but maybe you could do a slow transition. I don't know, man. It's up to you. I think that when you get this narrative, you could pump pretty good. It just depends on how good of a company Bitfarms is. I haven't really been following them for a while. Martin Pilder, Robinhood announced that they have filed with the SEC to launch Robinhood Ventures Fund, RVI, a concentrated portfolio of innovative private companies leading their industries. That's cool. Robinhood is just a good buy. I think Robinhood and SoFi are two areas that are going to benefit a lot from lower rates, and I think that they're still just good, steady eddies. I should have been holding them the whole time. I just thought I would do a lot better in altcoins and crypto and Bitcoin land than I did, because I thought miners would finally get their play, but that was old thinking. That was last cycle thinking. Bitcoin treasuries were it. And then by the time I finally caught on well enough for Bitcoin treasuries, and just treasuries in general, again, some of them didn't turn out too well, even though Bitminer I'm up on, SBET I was up on, and Solana stuff I'm starting to do good with the Sol 2X. I've been doing really good on that. But the Bitcoin treasuries kind of got me fucked too. You just, again, there's this old school thinking. I wish, though, looking back at it, I knew Robinhood was a great company. I made 1,800% off of it. Wish I would have just kept it. I don't even know what I'm at right now. I should actually probably check real quick. I kept one of my options contracts for Robinhood because, again, I made 1,800% off of Robinhood or something like it. That's a good number. But what is it now? What is it now? Oh, it's just going to piss me the fuck off when I look at it. But again, we learn from our mistakes, right? But I'm just going to pull it up here real quick and I'll tell you what it's at. If I can find it here. Robinhood. I am up, well, I guess 2,400% right now. 2,400%. One contract is worth $8,200 and I bought it for $342. 8,200. 342. That's fucking crazy. But looking back at it, I wish I would have kept Hood. Honestly, Palantir, Robinhood, SoFi, these were all great companies. I found them early. I wish I would have kept them. It is what it is. Hindsight's 2020. But if I would have had a lot more in that, then now I could be transitioning a little more into the Bitcoin crypto world, and then also putting more of that money towards Tesla. So woulda, coulda, shoulda. All we can do is learn from our mistakes. I think there's a lot. If you're an HPC Bitcoin miner play, you're going to do really good. Jesse, our Tesla leaps would have done well. Dang it. Yeah, they finally would have caught up, but I don't know. I've got no complaints right now. I don't even know how much I have in Tesla, but it's probably right up there with the top position in my portfolio. So I'm very happy with what I own. But again, it's just one of those things where I think the big play is just really understanding companies that are just executing over and over and over again and acquiring more of them. I know I'm going to make a bunch of money here soon with the Bitcoin and altcoin plays. I'm going to transition to that into my long-term plays and the stuff that's just really proven itself. And I think a combination of TLT, because I believe in the government's ability to repay their debt, acquiring a little bit of cash, buying a bunch more Tesla, again, ARGT, maybe open if I think the housing market's going to do well. TLT for the bond side of things, ARC Genomics. I think genomics will be big in the future, but I'll slowly step into that. SoFi, Robinhood, I think all that stuff, Palantir, all that stuff. Why not buy Solana staking yield, SS up 43% today, since IPO? I don't know. What's the volume on it? Tell me what the volume is for a given day. I'll tell you what the volume is for Sol. I want the one that's going to have the most liquidity. Over the short term, it might be great because you get a bunch of money going up. But if it doesn't have liquidity when I'm ready to sell it, then that sucks. But you let me know. So Tesla, Bitminer, and Sol are really where all the money is right now. I still got RG and the Smarter Web Company and Mara and CleanSpark, Shitcoins, MetaPlanet, SMCI, SQNS, Coincilium, Burr, cash, just a lot of things. I got a lot of diversification, slowly starting to add to some of these other positions, and we'll continue to do that. All right, anyway, that's enough of that. Let's go over. There's a lot to talk about, actually, I think, with Ethereum, too. I want to go to that real quick. More with Bitcoin, too, but we'll jump to Ethereum for now. Let me see. Was there anything else? Oh, yeah, no, we should cover this. SEC said U.S. exchanges like NASDAQ can now offer Bitcoin ETFs. There is going to be so much coming in for these guys. Do you recommend Sol at these prices? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't recommend anything. I'm not a financial advisor, but that's what I bought a bunch of Sol. It was better before it jumped last week, but I think it's down today. So Japan slashes Bitcoin taxes. So crypto tax will drop from 55 to 20%, and new rules will treat crypto gains the same as stock gains. That's awesome. So you're going to see increased buying, most likely, for Bitcoin and crypto-related things in Japan. I'm not sure if this is causing weakness in MetaPlanet over the short term too, but they still have really good incentives with that are better tax incentives. So I still see them doing well. I posted this over the weekend. I said total market cap for crypto minus Bitcoin just hit its highest level ever. Now, again, it's retraced just a little bit here, but just like sold, I think we're getting ready to have a massive breakout to the upside. Thoughts on Naka getting destroyed? I don't know. I don't understand what they're trying to do. They bought a bunch of Metaplanet, right? Like, I don't know what they're trying to do there. Yeah. Anyway, also, we have not seen, this rule still applies, we have not seen the top yet for Bitcoin because we have 0 of 30, or I'm sorry, 1 of 30. What did we get? We got 1. Alt season index. Oh, because it's like in its final start of the run. So alt season index peaked up over here. So we got 1 showing for now. That'll actually probably drift out here in a little bit. But 1 of 30 right now. 1 of 30. Oh, Naka must have had something else happen. Do you guys have the news on Naka? Throw it out there. If they're down 54%, they did something else, something crazy, maybe major dilution or something. Dario, what's up, dude? Jesse, you know anyone who plays Leap calls often? Last Friday, I grabbed Tesla call and flipped 900% same day. I'm just trying to stack multiples like that so I can roll out. I don't like playing options right now. I don't like playing options right now. I do think that I think you can make a ton of money. I like playing Tesla Leaps down near the bottom of the bottoms. So like at 150 more recently, Tesla Leaps were probably really cool. And if we just look over here, like there's been, like I really love Tesla Leaps. Here, I bought a shit ton. Here, I bought a shit ton. Here, I bought some too. Or actually, I think I just ended up doing stock. I got out. And then again, this one I didn't really take advantage of. Probably should have on the Leaps. But yeah, I like them. I like them on lows. I like to hold the stock in the meantime and ride that up. And then once I think we've gotten to like a low for the next year, or like this one was such an easy one, it's like this is probably going to be a low for years and years and years and years, right? But you can see the higher lows being formed. I think Tesla's going to do really good, but I don't know. I'm just trying to avoid options. I don't want to get caught off guard by a major market drop. But I'm glad you made a bunch of money off of it, bro. Main stage news, look up John Burke. I've been fascinated by near-death experiences and how they're associated with the Bible, no matter the person's cultural background. Cool. But yeah, I've done really well off of Leaps with Tesla over time. All right, let's keep going down here. I don't think I have much new in that front. Let me know, did we get a strategy buy too, guys? What happened with Naka, and did we get a strategy buy? I wanted to point to this. So the ETH exit queue has spiked to a 45-day wait now. So again, I think what people are realizing is a bunch of people have been staking their Ethereum, and now they're realizing, hey, maybe I should get ready for when the cycle tops. Well, this puts them all the way out to the end of October to be able to sell their ETH. So I think you're going to see a greater increase in the exit queue. But again, when it's in the exit queue, it's just being unstaked. It can't be sold. 525 Bitcoin from Strategy. Cool. Good to know. Anybody know what's going on with Naka yet, though? But yeah, so all these people, they can't sell. They're not going to be selling. There's a huge percentage. And then you have these new companies or treasuries coming in, and then they're staking. So they're buying this stuff that people are unqueuing here that they might be selling, and they are staking it and locking it up. And then all these other people are going to be locked up for a very long time because they won't be able to get access to their Ethereum even to sell it. And then some people won't be paying attention, and they'll be like, shit, my stuff's staked at the end of the cycle. I can't sell it yet, and I've got to wait how long? So you've got an exit door that is locking up and log jamming for Ethereum. But then you have just a massive amount. Oh, the pipe got unlocked. Those pipes are evil. See, this is the thing that I think happens with ASST. This is why we got out of it. Why we took that, gain in the 12s and then got the fuck out. Because I think when their pipe opens up, people are going to realize how many shares there were. And I think it could be like a 70% drop, maybe more, maybe 90% drop in ASST when they end up completing the merger just with all the new share issuance they have and everything else they have going on. So I'm glad to be the fuck out of that one. Again, went from 65 in an account to over 200, it's sitting all in Tesla, and now it's probably 215 or 220 even. So loving that kind of move. I'm waiting for my Tesla Leaps to leap at 9:30. Should be fun. Yeah, it should be, dude. enjoy. Leshka said Fed will cut rates in 3 days. Last time this happened, everything went parabolic. And they are right that we did get a Fed rate cut in 2020, a very brief one. But then again, at the end of 2020, they raised rates at the most aggressive rate in history. But there was a nice parabolic phase, and they're saying this is others. This is the others versus ETH pair. And so they're saying that we're going to see altcoin season coming. I think it's going to be limited, though. I totally agree with Benjamin Cohen on that. We're testing down a little bit in Bitcoin, guys. 114,745. Tesla still looking stupid strong above the 8% in pre-market. Crypto Rover posted this, exchange reserves. So think about this, guys. The exit queue's locked up. You've got these massive inflows for Ethereum from companies like Bitminer and many others. And they're like a third of the way of their goal, a little over. And then we went from exchange balances that were close to 21 million down to 17.1 in a very short period of time. So this is going to continue to happen while everybody's log jamming at the exit. I think it's a great way for Ethereum to go a lot higher. And if Ethereum's going higher, I strongly believe Solana is too. Also, on that same note, number 2 for treasury companies, for the most liquid treasury company, was Bitminer. How fucking crazy is that, guys? Strategy, Bitminer, then it's SBET. Look at the distance in the trails here, guys. SBET 481 million, Bit Digital 94, Upexi 67. Just nothing in the way of volume when compared to Bitminer, which is more than 7x the volume of SBET and just a hair underneath Strategy. Says a lot. Gets me very excited about Bitminer. We also have MasterCard has now integrated with Ethereum payments. I think that's positive for Ethereum. We've got an Adam and Eve pattern on ETH that's looking to push us to 5,500. I think that's very positive for Bitminer and Ethereum. And then it says huge ETH holders with a balance of 10 to 100,000. ETH hit a new all-time high in this. So the balance of people that have 10,000 to 100,000 has grown substantially. This is like a rocket ship. So not only are we seeing ETF ownership scaling like crazy, not only are we seeing Ethereum Treasury scaling like crazy, the exit locking up to where people can't sell the shit for 45 fucking days because they're staked until that opens up. But also we're seeing balance for the 10,000 to 100,000 Ethereum is skyrocketing. So we've got individuals buying it, we got corporations buying it, and we've got ETFs buying it in just really large quantities when nobody can sell it. History Guy Scalp says, how does Lisa Cook still have her job? I'm a new conservative high school teacher in New York City that said could come to a school drunk and not lose his job. We need to be able to fire government employees. They're working on it. She's going to be gone. There was just a temporary stay that kept her around, but she's going to go away. Real quickly, I want you guys to hear this. This is Tom Lee talking about why Ethereum treasuries are going to outperform or should outperform because you're getting more Ethereum per share. Let's look at this.
Yes.
So let's get right to the question from investors. So why would investors need to buy a Bitcoin stock instead of just buying Ethereum directly if it's so good?
Yes, that's a great question, because someone's going to say, well, if Ethereum can go up a lot, why don't I just buy Ethereum? And one of the differences is that a digital treasury like Bitmine is actually growing how much Ethereum you have per share. So I'll give you an example. On July 8th, when we closed on that initial transaction for taking over Bitmine, or transforming it to a Bitmine treasury, an Ethereum treasury, there was $4 of Ethereum per share held at Bitmine. So imagine someone could say, I could buy $4 worth of Ethereum or buy one Bitmine share. As of August 24th, Bitmine held $40 of Ethereum per share. So it rose by 10 times. But if someone bought the Ethereum itself, or they bought the Ethereum ETF, they'd still only have $4 of Ethereum per share. So you can see that a treasury company is growing your Ethereum holdings per share. That's why MicroStrategy stock did better than Bitcoin. In August 2020, MicroStrategy stock was $13. Today it's $335. It's gone up by more than 25 times. The price of Bitcoin has gone from 10,000 to 110,000. So it's gone up by 11 times, but MicroStrategy stock's gone up by 25 times. And that's because MicroStrategy, as a treasury company, has grown your Bitcoin per share, and Bitmine is growing your Ethereum held per share every week.
And so what he's telling you is MicroStrategy essentially grew by by 2.5x the underlying asset of Bitcoin, and that he believes that Ethereum, especially Bitminer, can do that same thing.
It's growing by roughly 50 cents per day.
Okay, and that's the reason why we should buy Bitcoin instead of Ethereum if we want more profits.
That's right. And to give you a perspective, the stock was $4.50 when we announced the Treasury strategy, and today the stock's $43. So it's gone up by 10 times. Ethereum has risen by 50% in that period of time. So Bitmine has outperformed Ethereum.
Yeah. So anyway, this is exciting stuff. Let me see what else we got here. ETH's going to 15,000 in 6 months. Here's why. DATS buying billions in ETH, ETF inflows, stablecoin, $1 trillion demand, RWAs launching on Ethereum, staking rewards for ETFs, deflationary 30% stake supply. And again, there's a log jam at the exit door. So I do agree. I think we're going to at least 10,000 with the potential of going even higher towards the 15,000 range. But I think at least 10,000. Have I changed my price target on Tesla between now and the end of the year? I think the high is at least in the 500s, 5 to 600-ish range. Could it go higher than that? Yeah, totally. It could fucking go higher. Things could get really exciting and it could go into the 700s. I'm just giving the measured move here of the cup and handle that we were in, but you could totally see something. What I would like to see is like another cup and handle. I'd love to see us get to like maybe 460 or something and stop there, and then maybe go under for a minute and then break up and have an even larger cup and handle, because that would actually increase my targets a lot. But I think I've posted this before. I think that by 2027 or sometime early in it, that Tesla's price will be at least 1,600. So I think it's going to be a very strong number. And it's just, I don't even know what the multiple starts to build up to. It will look silly. Could we be at 1,000 PE ratio again? Yeah. I think we could. It's not crazy. Because once people start to realize what the robot can do and they start production with that, I think things get really crazy for Tesla. They're going to own all of autonomy, massive parts of the energy sector, and all of human labor, or at least a large portion of it. You're going to see numbers out of Tesla that just blow the minds of traditional analysts and how they measure things. Tesla, please have a mini pullback for us to get more. It could close that gap. They could totally do that. But I think Tesla's going to start accelerating away. That's why Elon's buying these shares. It's not just about control. And again, I just want to reiterate this. The ETH BTC pair shows that ETH is getting ready to break out. So it's having a little retrace today and consolidating a little bit, but it's a good looking chart, guys. Let me just show you Ethereum here. I'll pop it up on the right. And we got about 28 minutes until market open, but this is a good chart. Look at this, just higher, low, higher, low, higher, low. Really strong base. Remember how I talked about how we were consolidating here on all this volume? It is a beautiful base. And then when we go back and look at it over a larger time frame, it looks equally as attractive, right? This was literally the previous resistance all across here. So now this is going to be a new level of support. And boy, was it support. It barely touched it and said, fuck you, I'm going higher. And I think it's just a matter of time before we reach 4,900 again, maybe even by the end of this week. And then we start launching up into the 6,000s. I actually think 6,400 is something we could see by early October. I'll accept 460 and 160 BTC. That wouldn't be bad. I think SoFi has always been a great company. It just does even better when you have lower rates. I think it's replacing JP Morgan. I know people don't want to hear that because they're like, what are you talking about? That's insane. It doesn't make any sense. But they're like a digital JP Morgan. They are traditional in nature and they move slower. And they have strong leadership and they're growing like crazy. They're like the sleeper. And then Hood's just amazing. See, listen, I think it makes sense to exercise if you're deep in the money, don't have much time left till expiration. Yeah, or you could just sell them. You exercise, at the end of it, but you could just sell them. Your way of exercising in the meantime, if they haven't gotten to their expiration date yet, is just to sell them. Not sure if I missed that conversation, but Tomer, does it make sense to accumulate more BM&R and sold in these prices, or do you think they're expensive? I don't think they're remotely expensive. I mean, BMNR was more expensive. It jumped a decent amount, but I think Solana, literally, I just showed you a chart that shows that it's getting ready to break out of its zone, and Ethereum is doing that too. BMNR just has such a beautiful technical pattern here. We rejected right at this next fib level, perfectly at the fib level, right? After establishing a really strong higher low. And now we're just back testing a little bit. I think we're going to violently test this shorter term high going back to August. I think we'll violently test upward here on Bitminer. And I think we don't really start to hit resistance. We have to get past 60. That's where this next volume peak is over here. Once we do that, though, we really don't hit resistance until like the 100 range, 105, something like that. So I think I think it's cheap right now. I don't think you want to wait long on betting on Solana. I don't think you want to wait long on that or a Bitminer. May bounce on the 50. Damn. CoreWeave is up. That's CoreWeave, right? Up 12%. Do you know why? Sealess, Alex, exactly my hunch. I have 9 months on Tesla Leaps. Yeah, you got a lot of time. I would let it ride, man. I think we're going much higher. I wouldn't sell until the upper fives at least. Or maybe sell a little bit if we get quite a bit higher. If we're testing the all-time high again. Because I think the next several months are going to be really good with Tesla. So I'm less prone to sell, especially stock. All right. Anyway, let's see what else we got going on here. I don't think we have any new videos. Let me just check the FS Insight here real quickly and see if we have any new videos. Disappearance of fossil fuels might be further away than some think. Well, that kind of looks interesting. We got technical strategies. Yeah, nothing from Tom, at least. CoreWeave and NVIDIA inked $6.3 billion cloud computing capacity deal. Wow. Dude, that's probably going to help out Iron, too. Iron is right at the technical peak, guys. So I've told you this before. We're right at it. So if you look right now, Iron is right at the line. So if you look at this previous resistance line, that kind of starts over here in July of 23. So a long time ago. We are just hitting that right now. I don't know. Maybe it goes above it. Let's see how we're doing on the RSI. RSI is pretty high. This is probably going to be a resistance level, though. It's probably going to make this thing grind. But maybe that's why people are jumping into like Bit Farms and again CoreWeave and just other things where they're HPC-like in nature. Seedless, I'm still holding my June 2026 leaps. Awesome. Just in, President Trump saying pending SEC approval, companies will no longer be required to report earnings quarterly, but instead, what? What? Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. What did you just say? Every 6 months? What? What the actual fuck? This is brilliant. This is kind of brilliant. So what he's doing is giving us a hump where he's saying, hey, you don't have to report for 6 months. That's crazy. I don't even know what to think of that. I think it's smart over the short term to do this because you want to make it to where the market's more speculative and it's not based on actual data, especially if that data is negative. I kind of think this is brilliant, but it's fucking insane. Totally Trump. Trying to time Palantir unless you had 200% conviction and not sell anywhere between 50 to 130 was hard. Don't feel so bad. Oh, yeah. I made 600% off of it, but I really wish I would have kept it. But I'm buying into it now. I'm probably getting more today. I think I've got like 5,000, 6,000. I'm just going to keep stacking. I'm gonna DCA with SoFi, Hood, Palantir, add massive amounts of Tesla, ARGT, ARCG. I'm gonna DCA into a lot of the stuff, TLT, all those things. And then there's others that I'm looking at too, like even again open, even though I believe it's went up a lot. It's went up a lot. So again, I'm just going to nibble on that one and hope for pullbacks. Let me go back here though. NVIDIA gets rights to purchase any unused CoreWeave data center capacity through April of 2032. Holy shit. So they're really ramping. CLIS, if an international community can be said to exist, they've given up COP global warming CO2 goals. Not sure if you were talking to somebody else about something. Daniel, so much better. Which profits are you using DCA into them? I don't know. Nothing right now. I'm using margin, a small amount of margin on one of my accounts because it's one where I have a shit ton of Tesla and it's just been going straight to the moon. So I have a huge amount of margin that I can use. So I'm just tapping a little bit of it because I feel really high conviction on Tesla. So I'm just nibbling, probably only spending like $10,000 a week. Nothing too big. Let's see here. Pinning SEC. Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Stony, I love to hear when you get into TLT. I'm probably going to have some today, but I'm buying very small amounts. Macro Polo, perhaps companies can do what they need to do in the next 6 months and not what the shareholders want. Exactly. I think that's a smart move. I actually think this is a really, really smart move that they're doing right here. It kind of makes some sense. Real quickly here, I'm going to give you a little bit of Jim Cramer. I haven't hit the restroom yet, and I need to do that real quick before we go live. We got 20 minutes until the bell. Let's listen to what Jimmy's talking about with this presidential thing. I got to hear. Let's hear what his take is real quick here, guys. 1 second, and I'll be right back. Give me a second.
This morning about potentially changing companies' quarterly reports, saying, quote, subject to SEC approval, companies and corporations should no longer be forced to report on a quarterly basis, quarterly reporting, but rather to report on a 6-month basis. This will save money, allow managers to focus on properly running their companies. Jim, the Securities Exchange Act of 34 might have something to say about this.
It's interesting because in a lot of countries, you can do it that way, and basically it's like, it is better. I remember Andy Grove in Only the Paranoid Survive said the quarter is the essence. That's exactly the time that we should use to measure CEOs. And it was brutal. He said it's a brutal thing to use a quarter as a measure, but it's the right thing. And I think it is brutal. I think that you have to put it together 90 days. How many people? I'm watching Under Armour today downgraded. Why? Because the turn is not going to happen this quarter. The notion of something this quarter is how we think. And it's how money managers think. I mean, when you're with Tim Cook.
All right, I want to hear this. I want to hear what they're saying.
Kentucky, he doesn't want to, the valuation per quarter
hey, what's
is
up,
not
Krishalta?
the way he's thinking.
No, and there's long been a lot of people who bemoan the fact that we are not long-term focused in nature and how difficult it is to be a public company, constantly responding. And that said,
I just think this is so fucking brilliant.
The world look like? And by the way, I don't know that it matters, Carl, that there's a law or whatever it might be.
Kramer likes it.
Yeah, if Congress wants to pass a new law, they're welcome to.
Yeah, but how many things have we had happen? And maybe it could be under an emergency power. I don't know.
What?
We need emergency elimination of quarterly reporting.
It's an emergency.
Are you talking about what? Based on what? Or are you being facetious?
I'm just saying that we've seen other matters where it would seemingly require an act of Congress, but it hasn't. Right. So you can't.
This is nice. I think the 6-month thing is better. It feels like, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like quarterly updates are too much. It feels like they're too much. You constantly have them. You're getting out of one earnings and heading into the next one. Again, and this allows more speculation because when you have less data points for a longer period of time, you're going to have more price speculation on how things are going in between those and more surprise and more of a jolt to the upside and the down. It should give a fire into markets. The question is how many people actually implement it too if it ends up passing with regulatory approval, and then what it looks like, who chooses when, and it's going to be wild. This is crazy.
Not take this seriously. What would happen, Jim, if we went to half-yearly reporting?
Candidly, I think it would be better.
I agree.
Too short-sighted.
Really?
Yeah, I really do.
You feel like you get enough information from companies? Where would it come from?
I just think that there's too many companies trying to do a turn and are intimidated by the next quarter. That people think about the next quarter. When you deal with a lot of companies, look, next quarter.
That is actually a really good point where it's like, okay, the company needs to make a decision that could be pivotal for them, but they're afraid to do it and they're afraid to change because of the fact that they're afraid that it'll hurt their next quarter and hurt their stock price. I totally agree with that. There's some people that don't care, like Elon Musk. They'll let the stock fall where it needs to, but there's other companies where they end up being very focused on earnings and just trying to make them all look good and not necessarily on change and innovation and all the other stuff that's important.
Or this, I mean, it's a very tough time right now. Look, I used to agree with Grove. I now find there's companies that are trying to do long-term thinking, and they're just whacked by the quarter. Whacked. I mean, look, Eaton today, upgraded by Melius. Okay, now Eaton does electrical transformation. They're building a new plant. They have to make more capacity.
Yeah,
the plant doesn't come on time. Next thing you know, everyone downgrades Eaton.
No, but how are you supposed to have a sense as to how a company? I mean, 6 months is a fairly long time. Okay. By the way, the volatility you would imagine around earnings season would be enormous.
Volatility is vitality.
In these companies, unless they're going to conferences and sharing more. Well, if they got Reg FD, they might all. Who knows?
That's what I'm thinking. That you would just do. Like, there's a Laguna conference, Morgan Stanley.
I think it can make a huge difference. 3 months is a lot of fucking time where you can execute. And again, if you say, and it's just less overhead. You got to realize these financial guys, you got your chief financial officer, you got tech guys, you got the CEO having to just constantly come back into these meetings and devote time to what's going on and trying to shape the way that things look so that they're very presentable for Wall Street. It's a shit ton of time. It's a ton of overhead, and it makes sense to have less of it. And again, an extra 3 months where you don't have to be accountable for every little thing that you're trying to do for your initiative, I think it's helpful. I think he's right. I actually think this makes it to where companies can think more long term. I also think it's at a time where it's helpful for our economy, where you could see a downturn in some stocks and some corporations that you'll be able to avoid a huge drop in the price of the stock because of the fact that they can switch to a 6-month format and be like, oh, guys, yeah, we'll tell you about that in 6 months. I think it's brilliant right now.
Daily has, and they let them talk.
Options are going to get repriced, probably.
Let them talk.
There'll definitely be some bouncing around.
Maybe the last 6 months, 6 weeks. Look, I'm saying it's better for them. For us, no.
Yeah, I was going to say you're normally a voice for the shareholder.
Yeah.
And I assume for the shareholder, you'd want more high frequency.
I want all the information possible. If I were a CEO, I would be welcoming this because it is so hard to do a quarterly job. I mean, look, Warren Buffett is the only guy who's transcended the quarter. No one cares about this quarter. It's like meaningless. But everybody else is hostage. So if I were a CEO, I'd want that. Now, I would tell you, as someone who's reporting the news, I want something every day from these guys. But I am not dismissive of what the CEOs might want.
Yes, Bain, good point.
What the president's thinking. He may not be as oriented.
Companies can still communicate information they want to communicate, like new products or things that are inspiring, or maybe just let you know about a little bit of bad news, but not have this formality and all this work and all this overhead to do. Again, based on timing and what we're trying to gloss over, I think, over the short-term pain of what's going to be happening in the stock market. This gives companies the ability to be able to gloss over that short-term pain and then do some of the things that they need to do that Trump wants them to do. I think this is good. I think it's good.
It's not the first time this has come up.
I think it'll give us more resilience over the short term in our economy.
Carl, I mean, under Jay Clayton, it was discussed as well. He may push back on it. Again, I don't know if you remember, but we've been
pointing out this op-ed from Diamond and Buffett in 18. Short-termism is harming the economy. You might recall this one.
I think this is part of short-termism.
Did they recommend potentially going to
the
semi-annual
subhead was
reporting?
public companies should reduce or eliminate the practice of estimating quarterly earnings.
Yeah.
Well, the estimates, it is just brutal because it's made it so that when the CFO talks,
it's a big thing. Thank you for bringing it up.
If they don't raise the FAR numbers, then the stock just...
What are you going to do? I mean, you're going to have to... What are you going to do? You sit here and literally great conference call.
Mike said, how would this affect technical analysis? Not at all. Technical analysis is a completely unrelated thing. What it's going to affect is financials, right? So instead of having one of these lines every quarter, you're going to have 2 in a year. So it's going to be a lot less data points. But outside of that, though, technically, the technical analysis won't matter. Will there be some fluctuations where there's potential that People will sell a couple of weeks before earnings. There'll probably be some sell the news type events, right? Like if you've done really, really well in a stock and earnings are coming up and they haven't been telegraphing a ton of positive things in their communications, then maybe you run. So you could see some of that. But I love this idea. I think it's great. I think it's going to help us out a lot over the short term, especially because, again, we could have companies reporting bad earnings and then the stock market's going down, and then that stock market going down makes it to where people don't have the wealth effect and therefore aren't hiring as much for businesses. He's trying to do everything he can to make it to where companies can look good and be able to hide pain over the short term. That's what he's trying to do. And I think it's a smart move to do right now too. Will the SEC approve? We've got a pretty Trump positive SEC. I don't see how they wouldn't. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, we have a framework for a TikTok deal. The two leaders, Trump and party chair Xi, will speak on Friday to complete the deal. Oh, cool. Okay. Well, if that's happening, that's interesting. So that should be good PR for Trump, especially with the younger demographic. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to it. Let's see what else we got here, if anything. I do want to talk about Metaplanet. You were talking about SBET and SOLT. I got rid of SBET because it's underperforming BMNR, and I'd rather have BMNR. I'd rather have the leader, even if it potentially has a slightly less percentage gain potential than SBET, because SBET's quite a bit smaller. I'd still rather just own the leader. SOLT, I think, is a great play because I think Solana can do really well. It can do really well in the next 2 months. So I think both of those are good plays, in my opinion. SOLT will probably give you a bigger return. Metaplanet, I want to talk about this, though. So we had the highest weekly volume candle ever this last week in its history. And again, it kind of went up a lot off a major bounce, and then it got smacked back down again. But this does, if you look here throughout the history, recent history of it, I think Bitcoin is getting ready to confirm its breakout, and this would tell me that we're near the bottom. Whenever you're not going to have another wick like this, so we could grind down here for a little bit before going higher, but the chance that this is the bottom is super high. I think that's about it for that one. Jesse, are you thinking of sizing into Metaplanet? Probably not. I'm mostly into SWC. Probably stick with that for now. Might split it up a little bit, but I've got a lot of different treasuries. I'm feeling pretty good about that. If some smaller ones do well, then great. JD Vance hosting the Charlie Kirk show at 12 Eastern. Oh, is he really? I wonder what they're going to do with that show, if anything. Is this just the last one? Alonisys, Metaplanet preferred 6% offering, huge hit in Japan at 1%. What do you mean at 1%? Sorry. Stony, major institutions, Goldman, JPM are covering their shorts. I think they're going to be. If they're smart, they're going to be. How are we doing on Tesla? 7.6% roughly. That might be a little delayed, but still sitting pretty good. What's your time frame for the smarter web? It's all the same. It's Bitcoin's most likely to top in October to November. So it's all about this. It's all the same. All the crypto and shit, pretty much. What do you think about Mara now? Strong positive divergence on the daily. I think technically it looks okay. But again, I don't know if they're getting big into the HPC play, and I think HPC is where it's at right now. So, from a technical standpoint, this could be forming a cup and handle and get us up here towards the 30s and 40s. That could still be happening. So, we could be seeing something like this. Try not to do this too far out. Again, kind of perfectly getting us to the .618. If this turns into a handle, then we could be seeing something like that. I think that's probably likely to happen. But again, I'm not super excited about miners either. They were the wrong trade for a long time. But could in November, late October or November, we somehow get up to in the 40s on this and people get excited about it because they're jumping out of other things they've already made a bunch of money on and trying to dial into something else? Maybe, yeah. We could definitely see the shorts get fucked for a while. Please confirm. Confirm what? Alonisys, Metaplanet preferred 6% offering, huge hit in Japan at 1%. What am I confirming? What do you think on Mara now? Strong. Oh, that was you. Their rate in Japan bonds, I think, is like at 1%. Oh yeah. I don't have it in front of me right now, but Japan is definitely that people are there's a screaming good reason to own Metaplanet. It's like a part of their preferred investments that you can have where it gets treated better because of the type of container that it's sitting in. So Metaplanet is good from that regard, from a tax perspective. And then at the same time, you've got their bond market is a mess, and their investments are a mess, and their economy is a mess, and it's not getting any better. And so what would you rather own? I would say Metaplanet. My balls are not made of steel, but they feel a lot better. Volume starting to raise. What is that in regard to? When Elon tweeted, "You'll thank me later," he was referring to his big Tesla stock purchase. Oh, yeah, I totally think so. I mean, yeah, I think so. But good luck proving that. Raber trades PayPal to integrate Bitcoin and Ethereum into its peer-to-peer payment system. About time. About time. I think you're just going to be seeing tons of news like that. Let's see. The bell is about 5 minutes away. I might stick around for that. Let me actually go to the live view and see if there's anything coming up. Jesse, that will take them to 50,000 Bitcoin by the end of this year. No dilution. Oh, for Metaplanet? Yeah, that's amazing. Yep, that sounds about right. That sounds like the numbers that Adam and a bunch of other people were giving. Sony, huge. Cracker Barrel just dropped their new logo and brought back the classic one. I heard that, yeah. Matt G, thank you for becoming a member. You can talk in chat. Ted buys $1 billion of stock market cap, like $750 million, I think. Yeah, he made a ton of money. Like he made 15 billion or maybe like 12 billion or 13 billion right now off of a $750 million purchase. So pretty good deal. Have you looked at Hive? I'm not paying attention to miners. I really do not care about them right now. But if they're doing HPC, they're probably going to benefit. What's your Tesla play at these levels? Oh, let me turn this down. What's my Tesla play at these levels? I'm just owning Tesla. I just want to grow my stack. I said before, if I get to anywhere between 10 and 12 million dollars by the end of this cycle, let's say by November, if that ends up happening and playing out the way I think it's going to, then I want at least like 50% of that sitting in Tesla, $5 million worth. And I just want to hold it. And then if we get some major economic downturn, my goal would be to slowly convert Tesla shares and then also buy Tesla with stock. But if I run out of money, would be to slowly convert Tesla shares into long-term 2-year leaps, because I so believe in what's happening with Tesla. And if for some reason in 2026 we get a drop because of global liquidity cycle or whatever it is, let's just say weakness, we get beat up because people are worried about what's happening in the U.S. economy, and that the juice isn't doing enough to make it better. I don't know. But if we get some kind of drop, then I'll be looking out years, because again, by that time I could get 2028 leaps, like the end of 2028, maybe beginning of 2029. So, I'm sorry, 2028. Yeah, 2028. But that would be really exciting, and I'd love to stack those. Turner Bar, also in terms of Metaplanet, will pay out of the preferred dividends and their put sales profits, no through ATM sales of the common. I'm not sure. Maybe you guys are having a separate conversation there. Can I look at PPIH? I don't know what that is. I could probably look at it. We got 3 minutes until market open. I don't know what it is, though. Let me look it up over here and see if I can find it on visual stocks first. Talked with a friend of mine about stocks recently. Said my biggest holding was Tesla. He's mostly reading German left media. Told me Tesla is done due to sales in Europe. He has no clue. Yeah, dude, we literally just got projections out of the German factory going up because they're seeing such strong sales to all the markets they participate in. So that is not true. But yeah, when you listen to German left-wing media, I suppose you're not getting a really good view of the world. PPIH, Permapipe International Holdings. What is this? Can you tell me more about it? Let's see. It is a construction company. Let's go with the yearly. What did they used to be? So they were doing really good heading into 2008. They haven't really recovered since then, though. I don't know anything about this company. Let's see what their estimates for the future look like. Oh, they're saying higher. A lot of short. What? Shares held short. 94. Okay. It's not a percent. I mean, the company looks cheap at 11 forward PE. I would think the company looks cheap and that it could go a lot higher. I don't know what the stock price, what is the stock price over a very long period of time? Oh, wow. It's really went up a lot. So all these companies are just getting front run. So yeah, everybody's buying these builders, I think, heading into profit growth year over year, 239%, and it's still cheap. God, think of how cheap it was over here in the $7 range, or even over here in the 9s, how cheap that was for their forward PE. If you knew what was coming, if you thought about it, we should have been thinking ahead of time. Bitcoin's pumping. I mean, it's bouncing. Let's look over here. Well, the market is opening. We haven't done the bell really well lately. Let me go back here. We'll do the bell.
Let's get the opening bell this morning in the CNBC Real-Time Exchange with the big board. It's Deutsche celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. At the NASDAQ, it's Fulton Financial celebrating its 40th anniversary.
I'm going to switch to pre-market or actual market.
With the S&P up 5 of 6 weeks. Jim, triple Q's going for 9 straight days.
Let me go back here. This will probably take a minute to update. I should ring a bell. I'll leave that to a minute. Got more advancers than decliners, it looks like. It's looking pretty green over there. I'm going to mute these guys and get them off my screen. All right. I might jump here. Oh, wait. Sorry. I had something. I might jump here. I don't know that I have much more to say. I think it's going to be interesting to see what plays out with China. The New York data, I think, is only increasing our odds. It'll be interesting. Let me refresh here and see if the CME is updated at all. I don't think it has. Oh, maybe a little bit. It says 5.6%. I think that's actually going to continue to climb for the chance of 50 bips. We get more economic data, but the big day is Wednesday, guys. It's going to be Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and I will be here. I'll probably do a special episode, especially if they end up going 50. I'm probably going to do something like that. Tesla, baby. Yeah, Tesla doing well. We like Tesla. So I think, anyway, I'm probably done. I'm probably going to leave here with another song made for Charlie Kirk. I think it's a good one. So peace out, guys. I love you, and I will talk to you on Wednesday, and I'll see you on X, okay? You guys have a great day. You jump over to Amit's channel if you want to see the market open. Peace out. Bye.
This is the new and full version of Legacy, the song I wrote for Charlie Kirk. I really hope you guys like it. My heart breaks for his little girl, knowing that daddy ain't coming home. What kind of world we living in? The one where killing a father is condoned. Never failed to speak the truth, no matter the war he was up against. He saw this country falling apart, so he picked up his cross and took a chance. I believe this world is falling apart, and all we have to cling to is in our hearts. I'm talking about Jesus, not the left's careless apathy. One man's life was taken away for helping generations pave the way. It's our responsibility to carry on your legacy. What's this mean for that little boy? He lost a man to look up to. No more stories at bedtime, just just a world he'll grow a victim to. I wonder if they thought about his wife, whether or not she'll smile again. Losing him will test our faith, the strong in our faith is where we stand. I believe this world is falling apart, and all we have to cling to is in our hearts. Now I'm talking about Jesus, not the left's careless apathy. One man's life is taken away for helping generations pave a way. It's our responsibility to carry on your legacy.
All right, one more thing here.
We keep this love in a photograph.
Peace, guys.
We made these memories for ourselves, where our eyes are never closing, our hearts are never broken, and time's forever frozen still. So you can keep me inside the pocket of your ripped jeans, holding me closer till our eyes meet. You won't ever be alone. Wait for me to come home. Loving can heal. Loving can mend your soul. And it's the only thing that I know. I swear it will get easier. Remember that with every piece of you.